Hello and welcome to Continue or Drop, and on this episode I'm going to be talking about Ajin. My introduction to this series was actually through the manga. I was totally hooked on it at first since I read the first few volumes within like a day. But shortly after that, I think it was only like the next day, I lost interest and wound up dropping it. I thought that maybe the anime might be just what I needed to get back into the series. I have always favoured visual media over written media, so I was quite excited to see how the anime does. It has been 17 years since humans first encountered the monstrous race called the Ajin in Africa. In modern day, they're considered a menace, with many people even saying that they are less than human. The main character Kei had an encounter with a mysterious being as a child and has now been transformed into an Ajin. When he survives being hit by a truck, everybody knows what Kei is and he must now run to avoid being turned into an experiment. The first 3 minutes of episode 1 focus on the battle that people had with the Ajin in Africa. This introduction was obviously meant to show that the Ajin are extremely powerful since a whole army struggled to take him down. However, it was so long and drawn out that it ended up being dull. It basically had no impact on me at all. So, after that boring scene, we go straight into another boring scene of Kei waking up and having breakfast. By the 5-minute mark, I was already so turned off the series that I just wanted to quit watching right there. But that wouldn't be fair. There have been a lot of anime in the past that started off horrible but wound up being very enjoyable. So, I watched 3 episodes and you know what? It was still pretty boring. It did pick up slightly when the story got going, but everything still felt really drawn out. There were times where it seemed like it was taking forever for something interesting to happen. While I was watching this, I just kept on thinking, was the manga always this dull? Unlike the manga, I don't think I ever became invested in the anime. I just couldn't find a reason to care. Sure, I would occasionally crack a smile, but I don't think there was any point where I felt excitement or pleasure or anything like that. It also didn't help that Kei is an unlikable douche. He is vain, shallow, and uncaring to everyone around him. Now, before I go off too hard, I believe that this was intentional. He was meant to seem like your normal, slightly dickish teenager so that you feel sorry for him when he has to run for his life. But even with that, it was still very hard for me to get behind him. Kei was actually one of the reasons why I ended up dropping the manga. He just wasn't an engaging protagonist. Like with the story, I just couldn't find a reason to care about him. Kei's best friend Kai was a lot more likeable though. He has quite a few awesome moments and he's probably one of the only positives that this show has. But unfortunately, he isn't enough to save this. The other positive that I found was the cel-shaded art style. This was a little bit off-putting at first since I've always been ambivalent about cel shading in anime. It usually looks okay at the very least, but I often have a hard time getting used to it. In Ajin specifically, the visuals were great. It's probably some of the best 3D I've ever seen in anime. When they zoomed into a character's face or an object, everything was really detailed. It was clear that a lot of effort went into this. The animation was especially detailed. It was quite surprising how lifelike the characters' movements were. There were a couple of wide shots that looked kind of mediocre, but they were few and far between. But good visuals alone do not make a good anime, so this is a drop. This was a pretty large disappointment actually. I thought that the anime could be an improvement on the manga, but it completely flopped. So anyway, thank you very much to everybody who watched this video. If you have any feedback, feel free to leave a comment, and if you like this video and want to see more, feel free to subscribe as well. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.